You guys, it's Karen and I'm here to do a review of this, the Too Faced Born This Way foundation. There's a lot of reviews out there, but I know that a few of you had requested this when I showed that I had ordered it, and I was very excited to receive this order because I also got the eyeshadow palette and a blush, and I am going to do a separate review of the eyeshadow palette and I'll briefly mention the blush in that. So I was surprised actually how many reviews there was of the foundation. I thought that maybe I would be one of the first, but what I didn't realise was a lot of beauty YouTubers had been sent a bottle of this before it's released, so they'd already had a chance to review it and put a video out there, which I guess makes sense to kind of get the hype going, you know. What I was also surprised to see was how gushy people or YouTubers are about it, and I thought, wow, this sounds like a miracle foundation. You know, people were saying that it made them look younger and it took away the look of lines, and I was like, wow, this sounds like a super duper foundation, and of course I was a bit cynical about that. So it arrived, this is the third day I've used it, so it arrived 3 days ago I guess, and my colour is in Ivory. I've got my trusty spreadsheet of course, so I'll give you the basic details about it, where I purchased it, etc., and I'll tell you what their claims are, what I think of the claims, and then I've got my own notes because there's quite a few kind of extra things to tell you that aren't mentioned in the claims. So it's called Born This Way, and the claim is, actually no, I'll talk about the claim after I've given you the basics. So the price, it's the equivalent of £27, and I ordered it from toofaced.com in the USA. The great thing about Too Faced is they are doing the same as Sephora. They're using the same company, which is border free, to do their deliveries, and it means that you don't get any custom charges when it arrives in the country. You pay them up front, so you're not going to get any nasty surprises, and it also means that you get your package earlier, because with the other, when you do get charges like my recent Makeup Geek order, you get a card through the door, and then you have to pay that, and then it has to be re-delivered a couple of days later. So with this, you've already paid it. I think it worked out about £16 for the shipping and custom charges, but £27 for the foundation. It says that it's for all skin types. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that. I would say it's more for normal to dry, maybe combination, but I'll talk about that when I talk about the foundation. And there are 12 colours in this, but something to mention about those 12 colours are in the top 4 of those 12, so the top third, there is only one yellow based foundation. It's this one, which is Ivory. The other 3 in the top 4 are pink based, which for me actually made it very easy to choose a colour, because it's really difficult to choose a colour online for foundation, as you know, and they haven't made it particularly easy. They haven't given a huge description of each colour. They just tell you whether it's pink or yellow based, or golden based as they call it. But it made it kind of easy because I knew I would be in the top kind of 3 or 4 colours, and there was only one yellow based, and that's the colour I like. If you're pink toned, it might be a bit harder to choose a colour. But this one is called Ivory. It's more yellow than I thought it would be, actually. Although it's yellow based, I like a more neutral based foundation and a more neutral sort of beige, but it doesn't necessarily show up so much in that camera, but I feel like it's very yellowy. It reminds me of some of the Illamasqua skin based colours. They've got that kind of egg yolky type colour. I do have it on today though. Let's talk about their claims. So it says it's medium to full undetectable coverage, oil-free, coconut water helps replenish skin's moisture level, alpine rose to brighten skin's appearance, hyaluronic acid for a more youthful appearance. So medium to full undetectable coverage. I would say it's definitely medium to full coverage, but I wouldn't say it's undetectable. It depends what you interpret as undetectable. Undetectable to me means you can barely feel it on your skin and you can barely see it on your skin. It just looks like skin. I would say that it's undetectable feeling. It does feel just like you're using a moisturiser. It feels like a sort of light creamy moisturiser. But I would say that looking at it, definitely on my chin, I can see that I've got foundation on. It's not a no foundation look, if you know what I mean. I do feel like it looks like I've got foundation on, but I know that a lot of people disagree with me in the YouTubers that have reviewed it. Oil free, yes, it's oil free. Coconut water helps replenish skin's moisture level. It's a very moisturising foundation and it feels moisturising going on. Alpine rose to brighten skin's appearance. I do think it has a certain brightening quality to it. Hyaluronic acid for a more youthful appearance. Well, that's another moisturising ingredient, so the more moisture your skin's got, the more plump it will look and the more youthful it will look. So those are the claims, which doesn't give me much to tell you about because it doesn't say anything about if it sinks into fine lines, how long it lasts, that kind of thing. So I'll cover all that with my notes. So the first thing I would say is, yes, it's medium to full and it is buildable, which is a great thing about it. But when you just put one layer on, it's definitely only medium coverage, and I like full coverage. So I've definitely gone, what I do is I put one layer on and then I put more in my T-zone where I want to kind of cover up the freckles on my nose and, you know, blemishes on my chin, that kind of thing. So I've put a second layer in the T-zone and it builds really, really well. It definitely, sometimes you can put a second layer of foundation on and it just moves the first layer about. This one doesn't do that. It does layer very nicely to get a full coverage. To get the medium coverage, I only needed, in fact, no, to get the full coverage, I only needed 2 pumps. You could probably use 1.5 pump and get a medium coverage of your full face. And this is very much, in the feel, it's very much like the NARS All Day Weightless Foundation, I think. But with the NARS All Day, I felt I needed to use at least 3 pumps, whereas it recommends to use 1. But that one dried so fast and it felt more, not matte, but it felt not as creamy enough. It wasn't as easy to blend and to distribute over your face, whereas this one, 2 pumps definitely would cover it, and it's easy to sort of, you know, you can take your time blending it in. You've got a while to blend it in, and it does cover your whole face with just 2 pumps. Packaging, I think this is absolutely beautiful. It's a gorgeous bottle, and if you're somebody that likes to display your foundations, then I think this will look really lovely, you know, on a vanity unit or whatever. I actually do display my foundations on a little white chest of drawers, and I would love having this on show. It's really pretty. Conversely though, if you're somebody that's looking for something to travel with, this isn't great because it's frosted glass, and whilst it's beautiful, it's going to be quite heavy to carry, and you want to try and pack light. Most people do anyway when you go away, and also the risk of it smashing and foundation going everywhere. I certainly wouldn't travel with this. There's only 2 things left to talk about with this, and one of them is a real positive and one's a real negative. So I'll talk about the negative first, and that is that it doesn't last great on oily skin, and both of these things have been mentioned in all the other reviews, so you know, it's great to check out other reviews and get a rounded picture. But I found that on my oily skin, this lasts about 3 to 4 hours before, maybe 5, maybe I could push it to 5 before it starts breaking through. So I've got foundations that last a lot longer than that on me, like my YSL Fusion Ink, like the Lancome Teint Idole Ultra, Estee Lauder Double Wear. So it's definitely not comparable in that aspect. So if you've got oily skin or combination skin either, definitely get a sample of this. Like I said, I think it does feel like the NARS All Day Weightless, and as you know, I don't love that foundation, and I was never sure if it was because of the colour was too light. Actually, I kind of like the colour better in the NARS All Day because it's a more neutral colour, whereas like I said, this is a more yellow based one, but that may be to do with that sort of brightening effect. I love the look of it. I think it looks very, very smooth. Like I said, it does give a brightening effect. I still could probably go one darker in this range, and I'm tempted to try a sample of a darker colour and see how I get on, because sometimes I can be influenced by colours, even though the real problem for me is the oil breakthrough. But with foundations that are lovely, like for example, I've got the YSL Teint Touche Eclat. That one doesn't last very long on me, and I do get oil breakthrough. But I wear that on a night out because it's such a beautiful finish. And this one is really, really beautiful. And I think it may be, like I said, a tad too light. If I got a colour a tad darker, then it might be something I wear on a night out, for the positive reasons that I'm about to explain, which are that it doesn't settle into lines at all. So I've got some lines around here, and I've got the, you know, the nose to mouth lines, and this doesn't settle, and a lot of foundations do. So I think it is a good anti-aging foundation. I don't, you know, people have reported that it's diminishes their lines and that they look 10 years younger, and you know, it's a foundation, it's not surgery. I don't think it's going to have that huge effect, but it's definitely got a really soft focus effect. So from that point of view, it's lovely. I'm still undecided on my final thoughts on this, but it's a good enough colour that I can keep on using it. I bronzed it up this morning to sort of take away that starkness of it. I don't mind that it's going to go oily in a few hours because I'm not particularly doing anything. And actually, what I should say about that is, although it goes oily in my T-zone. If you just sort of use a blotting tissue, the rest of the foundation hasn't moved, and the foundation itself doesn't look it's definitely just the oil that's a problem. You know, it's not the foundation not lasting. So I think if you've got dry skin, if you've got dry and mature skin, I think you would love this foundation. And even if you've just got dry skin, I think you would love this as well. But like I said, if you're like me with oily or combination skin, then maybe try a sample first. So like I said, I'm undecided. I like it, I don't love it, I don't hate it, and I'm going to keep on using it. So I hope that that was useful for you. Let me know if you're thinking of buying it, if you've already bought it, if you've tried it. It's always helpful to everybody to read the comments below on everybody's opinion. And like I said, there's plenty of reviews out there. I'm certainly not the first. I'm not even in the top 10, I don't think. There is quite a few. So I'm now going to do a separate video reviewing the eyeshadow and blush. I'll give you a rundown of what I've got on my face, which is mostly actually the Too Faced stuff. So I've got this foundation on, I've got the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Bronzer in Luminous, and I used the Too Faced blush in Justify My Love. And on my eyes, I've got the Too Faced Love palette. On my lips though, I have got the Clinique lipstick in Fab Pop. And I think that's everything. Yeah, necklace, I sometimes get asked about necklaces. This is from Topshop. That's everything. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon. Skin. Oh, I've got something in my eye, and do you know when I can see something glistening in front of it, but I can't actually see what it is. Ah! So the only two things to talk about, the only two things left to talk about, oh my God.